Hey guys, it's Jake and Sarah Salyer here with another episode of At Our Kitchen Table, Hearth Homes Realty, and today we are going to hit you with a market update. We are seeing big movement still from $300,000 to $200,000 range, which is really, unfortunately, our first-time home buyers price range.
New price point, yes.
Yeah, it's so sad. Post-COVID, 2020, this is kind of what we're expecting. Our first-time home buyers are having to jump their price range up. Historically in my career, that was really a 120 to 180 and 200 if you were lucky for a first-time home buyer.
Well, I always thought of it in terms of price per square foot. You go back 3 years ago, you could get a house in VA for $100 a square foot. That's kind of what you average. So like you're getting a 1,500 square foot home, you're going to spend about $150 to $160 depending on how nice. Fast forward, you're spending about like $130 a square foot.
140. I see new construction at 170.
Yeah.
It's all just kind of a mental shift. But regardless, with a market update, I've been trying to hit you guys with weekly rate updates. I have failed miserably at that, but we are still seeing a fluctuation of that 6.5 in a conventional, and we've even seen it as low as a 5.625 in FHA, which is crazy. And I thought, wow, right? That's awesome. But then we are still kind of stuck 18 months ago when we were down in the 3s and 4s.
Yeah.
So everything is just a mental shift, but regardless, the market is still moving like crazy. When you step into the $400,000 price range, you might see a little bit longer days on market.
Key points that you can kind of expect in this market. Number one, like we just talked about, if you're a first-time home buyer, expect to spend somewhere between the $200,000 $300,000 mark. That's just kind of where you're at. Number two, there are still two new things were introduced into the Oklahoma market: the escalation clauses. We've talked about that before, and the appraisal gaps. Both of those things are still happening. They're just not as frequent.
So
it's
real
not
quick,
as much as a need.
Escalation clause. I equate that to eBay. If anybody's ever used eBay and your max bid, so every time somebody bids, your bid just jumps up and up and up, and that's an escalation clause
to a certain threshold.
Yeah,
like you're saying,
hey,
I'm not spending over $300,000.
House is $240, but I'm going to go up to $250 because I want it that bad. We are still seeing that.
Yeah.
And that means every person that bids $242, it may jump up $500 or $1,000. So I'm automatically $253, and I'm automatically $254. And then when we present that, we have to show the other contract. So hey, we had a contract at $253, which made you $254. So it's all honest, but we are still seeing those under, in the fast moving market. Another thing we're not seeing as much as we were in the COVID years is buyers were paying their own closing costs because they wanted a house so bad. We are back in a market where you may potentially be able to ask for closing costs in a higher price range. In that $200,000 to $300,000 range, because it's still so hot, you really can't. But when you kind of step up a little bit more, you may be able to ask the client to pay the seller to pay some of your closing costs, depending on how long it's been on the market.
The last thing that I will say that has not changed throughout the last 3 years is inventory is still very low.
Huge inventory shortage.
We need more houses to sell. It's still a conundrum of a seller may want to sell, but they're like, well, where are we going to go? Because there's still a shortage for where they want to go. So if you're buying, be expecting that. Sellers still kind of have a little bit of an upper hand because they know there's not other options for you out there.
It's terrible.
But it's not as fast paced, so they do have to give just that little bit more, such as covering closing costs and those kind of home warranties and all those things. So just a few things that have changed, kind of some normalcy back into our world, but also there are some new norms that we're having to get adjusted to as well. So
hope that fills y'all in. We really appreciate you watching. As always, like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear from you guys at Our Kitchen Table with Hearth Homes Realty. Y'all have a great day.